Hello, everyone, and welcome to Total Football Talk. I'm Anthony,
And I'm Eric.
and I'm pissed off. And I don't get angry very often, especially at people that are commenting on my thing. Look, I believe everyone's entitled to their opinion, but we're doing this show because there's a few things that kind of broke. I'm also going to end with some XFL news, but I had a individual by the name of Callie69 that decided to comment on Jared Goff. And all I can say is thank God you're never going to be a GM in the National Football League for the Rams. I hope one day you become a GM for, say, the New England Patriots or the San Francisco 49ers, because I would love to make sure we have a guaranteed dub every time we play you. This individual seems to think it would be a good idea to trade Jared Goff to the Redskins for Alex Smith, who suffered a career-ending leg injury and will probably never play football again. So I'm not really sure why he thinks Alex Smith on one leg is a better fit. Or for Ryan Tannehill, who, I'm saying this somewhat sarcastically, but I may be pretty close to the truth. Jared Goff has more career passing yards than, okay? And if he doesn't, he's not trailing him by much. Look, if you're upset with the way he played in the Super Bowl, fine, I get it, okay? But this was not the worst performance in Super Bowl history. He got us to a Super Bowl, which is more than I could say for any other quarterback that ever played for the Los Angeles Rams other than Vince Ferragamo, okay? You want to throw St. Louis in there, then we'll include Kurt Warner. But I have no idea why people in California want to play this game right now. You people need to put the marijuana down, and you need to start clearing your head so you don't make stupid statements like this individual made. I'm going to say two things on this, and then I'm going to let Eric speak. Number one, you do not trade a franchise quarterback who just led your team to the Super Bowl for people that are infinitely worse than your quarterback. Ryan Tannehill is not better than Jared Goff. Jared Goff's rookie year, he was a better quarterback than Ryan Tannehill, with Jeff Fisher as his head coach. I want to make that abundantly clear right now. Ryan Tannehill has never won a playoff game. Let's be abundantly clear here. And the one playoff game this team was in, he was injured and couldn't play. So you have durability issues there. And as far as Alex Smith goes, like I said, the man suffered a career-ending injury, and you're not going to trade a 24-year-old quarterback for a 30-something-year-old quarterback. You're an idiot. So Callie69, if you can't take this criticism, I'm fine with it. Unsubscribe. But hopefully you're getting a little bit of a wake-up call here, because it's okay to have an opinion, but when you're that far out of bounds with the opinion, I'm going to say something. Now, he also commented that apparently ESPN is talking about rumors of the Rams trading Jared Goff. So I'm going to make something abundantly clear here too. And I told you this yesterday, Eric. Number one, and I'm not even playing. I'm not even joking. I will not watch the National Football League ever again if the Rams trade Jared Goff. I did not spend the last 20 years in quarterback hell with idiots like frickin', Sam Bradford, Sean Mannion. Fill in the blank with any other loser quarterback the Rams have had in the last 20 years after Mark Bulger. To get a franchise quarterback only to trade him away to somebody else and watch their franchise take off. It's funny to me. When you're right about something, when you're wrong about something, rather than people taking a step back going, wow, I really missed the calculation on this. In today's day and age, and maybe this is another man of monologue coming down the pike, but it kills me that in this day and age, when somebody is clearly wrong about their evaluation of another player or of an issue, rather than saying, man, I learned something, I was wrong, cool, good for them. We want to double down on our assumptions, ignore all of the facts, and then go full-blown retard on the issue. I don't get it. Okay? I was wrong about the New England Patriots for the last 3 years, and I've owned up to it. That's why I picked him to go to the Super Bowl this year. Right? Because at some point, you got to realize you're wrong. I was right about Jared Goff, and yet everyone wants to act like Jared Goff is the bust they pretended he was before they gave him a fair shake. It really, really pisses me off that people want to still pound this drum after everything the kid did, getting them to a Super Bowl. So just so you know, Ramily, if the Rams trade Jared Goff, you could tune in for XFL and AFF talk, but I won't be covering the NFL. And maybe Eric will do a segment on his own where he just covers the National Football League, but I will have no vested interest in a league that wants to do something like this because now it's politicized. That's all this is. I see this every day in politics. You prove me wrong. Rather than admitting I was wrong, I'm going to destroy you. And that's what the Rams are doing, or that's what the media is doing. Jared Goff, how dare you prove us wrong? Now, I'm going to railroad your career for the rest of your existence. It just drives me absolutely crazy. That we want to pick and choose winners, not based off of their ability on the field, but based off of assumptions we made when they were wearing shorts and a t-shirt, and we had 90-year-old men probing and measuring and testing these individuals. We want to base our assumptions off of their abilities based off of the underwear Olympics that is the combine rather than what we see on the field. I have no interest in it, and I won't play along with it. Now, I also think the Rams have exactly somewhere around negative 100% chance of trading Jared Goff. But it really, really boils my skin when I hear people talk this kind of stupidness, okay? It's bad enough we got to hear it from the outside. Now, the last point that I'm going to make, and this is my second point, is, there's been a lot of quarterbacks that have had poor Super Bowl performances. Losers that have never amounted to anything in their career like Dan Marino or John Elway or, what's another one that I could think of off the top of my head? Jim Kelly. There's been a lot of quarterbacks that just didn't cut it in the Super Bowl. A lot of them bounced back and had great Super Bowls. Brian Griese played horrible in Super Bowl VI. He led him to 2 Super Bowls after that, and they won both. Jim Kelly had a couple of really good Super Bowls. Unfortunately, the team didn't perform. John Elway, of course, won 2 Super Bowls later on. So, it just irritates me. So let's pump the brakes on our stupid, and let's go ahead and start focusing on 2019. Eric, your go.
Well, let's just get this cleared up. Ryan Tannehill has 11,000 more passing yards than Jared Goff, but has never thrown more than 28 touchdown passes of the season. He topped out at 27 in 2014, which could have been, that year and the next year where he had the 2 best years of his career. However, he went 14 and 18 in those 2 years. That was the only 2 years he was over 4,000 yards. Jared Goff hit 28 touchdowns a season ago, and then in 2018 had 32. So let's just clear up the Tannehill comparison, but I get what you're saying with that. I'm sorry, but you don't want Ryan Tannehill on your football team. So Cali 69, you really want a 35-year-old Alex Smith or Ryan Tannehill who can't stay healthy and is pretty much going to be run out of Miami this year. I really believe he's going to be released, and then the Dolphins are going to trade for Jared Carr. So just keep an eye out and watch. I really think that's going to happen. Tannehill won't be out of a job for long. Somebody will pounce on him, probably as a backup for a year. But yeah, if you really want Jared Goff traded, you really have to reevaluate your fandom, because Jared Goff is the reason where you are these last 2 years. And yes, Sean McVay has had a couple of hiccups in the playoffs and some play calling during certain games, but you went 13-3 and 11-5 the year before. Relax, people. Just kindly relax, take a deep breath. Okay, there we go. now we can continue.
Yeah. Well, real quick, Eric,
I mean,
if you're the Dolphins and the Rams go Jared Goff or Ryan Tannehill, what do you say?
Oh, the Dolphins, I'm like, let me come get them myself.
Right? Thank you.
But the Rams aren't dumb enough to do that. They're not going to be like, we're not going to trade Jared Goff for what's going to be a 31-year-old quarterback who has injury history, who missed all of 2017 and has missed a year and a half combined the last 3 years in terms of games. So no, you're not going to do it. Let it go. The only two quarterbacks I would trade Jared Goff for straight up right now are Andrew Luck and Patrick Mahomes. And I'm even
reluctant on.
I'm even skeptical on even trading him straight up for Luck.
Yeah.
Just because of Luck's injury history and because you never know if that shoulder is going to give out. So there's question marks there. But 39 touchdowns last year, or 38 touchdowns last year. It looks like he's getting healthy and better. So that's still a possibility. Those are the only two quarterbacks I would trade him for. I would trade Trubisky from the Bears for Jared Goff.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. But the Rams would be like, yeah, okay, no. However, like I've said on this show numerous times, the Bears are on the Rams' track. Just hopefully against the Colts, they score more than 3 points in the Super Bowl next year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's your Super Bowl pick. Huh?
As far as the Rams go, quarterback is the least of their worries. Head coaching is the least of their worries. You learn from experience.
Right.
McVay is in his second year as a head coach, going on his third year. He's going to learn from these mistakes. Jared Goff is going to grow. Jared Goff should be in the MVP conversation for majority of the year next year if he keeps up what he did last year in the regular season throughout this year. Mm-hmm. Minus the games where he looked pedestrian, against a couple of teams and then against Patriots. But playoffs don't count for the MVP consideration. Obviously, we already know that. Mm-hmm. So if he steps up his game, no matter what the Rams lose on defense, that offense can carry the load. I say the same thing against the Bears. I expect the defense to take a small step backwards, okay? Because they're not going to be able to be as dominant, and they were virtually major injury free on the defensive side of the ball this year. And if the offense can take off a little bit more with Trubisky to make up for the lack of a little bit of defense, it evens out. Okay? And I expect the Bears offense to take a big step forward in Matt Nagy's year two. Sean McVay's offense took off in year two, and the Bears are semi-built like the Rams. So I'm thinking that he could throw for 3,500 yards and 30 touchdowns, still while running the ball when he needs to, and that defense may or may not be the same level as it was, but I see a lot of similarities. So
yeah.
We might be talking about Mitch Trubisky like this in a year from now.
Yeah. Well, two things.
As somebody who is not a Rams fan, who has a lot of input, like I haven't heard the whole trade Jared Goff thing. I heard it. I heard it before the start of 2017 because of just how bad he looked in the system with Jeff Fisher. But a lot of teams outside of the 1999 Titans looked bad under Jeff Fisher. So all I gotta say is, people take a step back, stop playing GM for a minute when you want to get rid of everybody, and let the Rams develop in front of you, because that's what you need. You don't need to start blowing things up, especially when you're going to be moving into a new stadium in 2 years. You want Goff to lead your team into that stadium. You don't want a different quarterback. Trust me. I know all about quarterbacks, and if you start playing quarterback carousel, you're going to see your Dieter Brocks, and you're going to see your Tony Banks, and you're going to see your quarterbacks you don't want to see. You don't want that. You want that franchise quarterback.
It's funny too. I could see it now. Jared Goff could have like 55 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. They need to win the final game of the regular season. They have to just make sure they don't lose. They can tie or win. And, Todd Gurley could have like 175 yards rushing, and Jared Goff could have like 75 yards passing with a touchdown and a pick. And they're going to be like, he's garbage, get rid of him! And he'll be out of the MVP conversation because he had one bad performance. That is where we are at.
If that's not many people take Week 17 into consideration. If they did that for Goff, that would be inappropriate.
Well, it just showed. I'm telling you, Eric. Even his pedestrian performance down the stretch Okay, really, he had 2 bad games. Everyone keeps railroading this kid for how he played against Detroit, but he still threw for over 200 yards and had, I think 2 touchdowns in that game, or 1 touchdown in that game. He still completed a key third down that allowed for them to maintain the drive around the clock when they were up 30-16, and they still won 30-16.
It all comes down to this. It doesn't matter how you win.
Thank you. Now, I want to reiterate one other thing that you said before we go on to the next topic. As much as I rode and I was angry with the play calling of Sean McVay, and yes, I was disappointed in the play of Jared Goff, which I think was aided by the play calling of Sean McVay. At the end of the day, it's his second year and he got us to a Super Bowl. No Ram coach outside of Ray Malavasi has ever done that. Ray Malavasi got the Rams to the Super Bowl in his second year. But he had been in the Ram organization for 5 years as a D coordinator, and Ray Malavasi was in his 60s when he led the Rams to the Super Bowl. This kid is, 33 years old? Never been anything more than an OC in his career, and he led the Rams to the Super Bowl. So the future looks so bright for the Rams. And everyone is rightfully, or was rightfully, saying that this team is probably your next dynasty moving forward. Nobody's built like the Rams are, from the interior D-line out, from the quarterback position and beyond. We still don't know. Trubisky had a good year. We'll see what year 2 looks like. But it's really hard to get to a Super Bowl. And the Rams got there, and they have pieces that look really, really promising. I'm not even going to get on Todd Gurley. The guy's recovering from a knee injury. He's had 2 really good years, but he was overused by Jeff Fisher, and there probably was a lot of fatigue and just the physical pounding that he's taken over the course of his career might have caught up with him for the postseason. I think he's going to focus on, reprogramming himself, strength and conditioning over the offseason. I think you're going to see him look like Todd Gurley all year long for the long haul, barring a hit or an injury that causes him to take a step back. But, all of these guys are young, and they're all going to learn from this mistake. And as fans, we need to let the process play out. Because could you imagine if people tried to play GM, how many people that played GM in New England were really excited that the Patriots' backup quarterback was a 5th-round pick out of Michigan who looked like a freaking high school quarterback? I promise you a lot of fan GMs probably wanted to get rid of him or cut him from the roster altogether. So let's wait and see how things play out. And it's okay to be wrong, Callie. You obviously didn't like Jared Goff from the moment the Rams picked him. He proved you wrong. Instead of being pissed off and doubling down on stupid, you probably should embrace the fact that we actually have a quarterback for the first time as an LA Ram organization since Roman friggin' Gabriel. And certainly as an organization, if you want to include St. Louis, we have a quarterback for the first time since Kurt Warner. Anyway, I digress. There's other news. Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, other news that we should touch on, because there's going to be a lot of news breaking here in the next few weeks. But the biggest news is that Anthony and I will be live in about 3.5 weeks to bring you Total Football Talk with the both of us.
Yep.
At in front of the camera. So stay tuned. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Second, Joe Flacco has been traded from Baltimore to Denver. It's not completely official yet because that can't be official until March 13th, which is funny because I'll be out in Arizona and we can break that.
Yeah.
But he's been traded for a mid-round pick. I'm not a big fan of the trade. Anthony seems to have a lot of love for Joe Flacco. So I'm going to go first on this one. I don't like it. I think that Denver is going to end up drafting a quarterback in the first round of the NFL draft. I've heard John Elway loves this kid from Missouri, Drew Lock. I'm not high on him. I don't think he's the greatest quarterback that's ever lived. But I guess John Elway would know a little bit more about quarterbacking than I would, considering his track record of drafting Trevor Siemian and Paxton Lynch.
Hey, those guys were Hall of Famers.
First ballot Hall of Famers.
That's right. Yellow Jacket.
That's right. So, and a big bust in Canton. Anyway, so if they do draft a quarterback, I just see the same thing with Flacco happening again that it happened in Baltimore, where he's replaced midseason due to either performance or injury, and he rides off into the sunset. I know Flacco really didn't have a say in where he wanted to be traded to. But, if you look at the numbers, Case Keenum signed a 2-year deal there last year, so he's going to be year 2 on his deal. But obviously, NFL contracts aren't fully guaranteed unless your name is Kirk Cousins. So, with that being said, I think Keenum's gone there, so he'll be looking for a new home. And, Flacco signed for the next 3 years. So, listen, I know he's got a nice, good young wide receiver in Cortland Sutton, and he's got a decent run game with Royce Freeman and Philip Lindsay. And he's got what's the word I'm looking for?
Aging?
He's got a very reliable wide receiver in Emmanuel Sanders. There you go.
He's got an
and Flacco likes his tight end, but they don't have the tight end that Flacco likes that he can throw to. So I know the defense is legit there in Denver, and they're going to keep them in games. I'm just curious, being a 35-year-old quarterback going to a new system. I know he's very smart. You've got to be somewhat smart to play quarterback, but Flacco might thrive there. I just don't see the Broncos making the playoffs or being first or second in that division, with the Chiefs and Chargers still up in their game. So I'm just not as high on it, but you never know what could happen. That's why they play the games.
Well, with my opinion on the matter is this: you've got a big league arm in that stadium with that altitude. He's going to be slinging that ball deep and far. They've got a great running game, and they've got a strong defense. And when the Ravens had that, Joe Flacco had his best years. So I'll be curious. Plus, he has receivers that actually know how to catch a football and not drop it half the time. So I think
when you upgrade from Michael Crabtree, yes, that is definitely a plus.
Right. So I definitely think you've got that. Look, for me, the Chargers, to me, they're a walking, ticking time bomb. And what I mean by that is, eventually, the floor is going to go out on the Chargers. At some point, age is going to catch up to Phillip Rivers, and I don't even know the Chargers' backup quarterback. Do you?
And then forever, really quick, who's the Chargers' backup quarterback?
Yeah, right. Help us out.
Wait, is it still check down Charlie?
Who's checked down Charlie?
Charlie Whitehurst. Come on.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know he was still in the league. What I'm getting at with this is the Chargers have never, we keep talking like the Chargers are going to be number 2 overall, but in the division. But if age catches up with Phillip Rivers and he has a down year, and it looks like Father Time finally caught him, then what? You're going to tell me that the Chargers, with whoever their backup quarterback is better than Joe Flacco? Like, I don't think so, and especially when you consider what the pieces Denver has. I mean, Denver beat the Chargers already once this year. So, and they gave the Chiefs a run for their money in Denver. Now, almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. I get it, but Denver's not as far away as people think. So, I do think that this pick, I elevates Denver into the playoff conversation. I'm not saying they'll overtake the Chargers or the Chiefs, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they take a 6 or a 5 seed in the wild card from the Ravens. I told you, I've not seen anything that's made me go, Jackson's the answer in Baltimore.
Wait. Did you say they would take the wild card from the Ravens?
Yeah.
The Ravens aren't making the playoffs next year. The only team coming out of the AFC North, and you heard it here first, is Cleveland Browns.
Okay, well, fair enough. I'm with you on that. I'd be okay with that. I'm just saying, they were one of the teams that made the playoffs this year, and that would be a team that they could overtake. So, I'm not sitting here putting Denver in the Super Bowl either. I'm just saying, it's something to keep an eye on. I like Flacco. I've always liked Joe Flacco. I think he's one of those quarterbacks that's, as a fan of a team that never had a quarterback, I was always envious of Baltimore's pick out of Delaware and what he was able to provide for the Baltimore Ravens for years. And, I don't think he's done yet. But I agree with you. I could definitely see the same situation in Baltimore unfolding here, because if John Elway's proven anything, it's that he doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm not a Joe Flacco hater. Like I think Joe Flacco has been given the short end of the stick actually quite a few times, except for the year that he's like, hey, bet on me, I want that contract. And I'm gonna take the team to the Super Bowl and win, and he did. He backed up his talk, and he earned that contract.
Yeah.
But I just think that this year and going forward, that he's gonna be more of a journeyman and get replaced, midway through the season, and it just has a feeling of.
Let me ask you.
All over again when he was in New York, and then Eli replaced him, and all that hoopla.
Let me ask you a question though. If Denver gets out to a 6-2 start, do they bench Joe Flacco?
No, they don't bench Joe Flacco.
Okay. So what other breaking news do you want to talk about before we go to the XFL?
All right, two more things. Kareem Hunt signed a deal with the Cleveland Browns. Your thoughts?
Well, I have two modes of thinking here. Number one is I can't wait for the XFL when people like Kareem Hunt, who, I'm sorry, you're in your mid-20s and you didn't know it wasn't okay to beat the living crap out of a woman. Like, I'm sorry, I don't buy that. Well, he deserves a second.
Beat the crap out of her.
He deserves a second chance, Anthony. No, you don't. No, because you know what happens if I beat the crap out of a woman in the real, outside this, even inside these walls? I go to jail. I don't get a contract for some X amount of millions of dollars to go play for an organization. So, from that standpoint,
that's because you don't have the money they did.
Well, and
even though that's not right.
It's not, and that's my point. So, from a personal standpoint, I love that these guys get second, fourth, and fifth chances, and guys like Tim Tebow don't get a chance.
Tebow's been offered to come back to football, and he's turned it down numerous times. So don't think that Tebow's never been offered. He has been. He actually was just offered this past off.
Why would you go back to a league that treated you the way he was treated?
Well, I get that. I'm just saying he's been offered opportunities to come back.
What I would love to see is if Tim Tebow ends up in the XFL. That would be the ultimate slap in the face to the NFL.
It'd be interesting. I won't rule it out, but I think he's very committed to baseball right
now.
And
he should be. He's performing there.
Right. And he's got a chance to actually be in the big leagues, which is unheard of. By September, if roster calls and he does well in AA, AAA.
Yeah. So we'll see how it all works out. But
right.
Hold on. The other point that I want to make from a football standpoint, I'm sure they got him for relatively cheap, all things considered.
$645 million base salary. He's got, $645,000.
I was going to say.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's not cheap.
For a 23-year-old running back who's coming off suspension.
Yeah.
$645,000 base pay. I actually had it up here, and I can tell you what it is.
So while you're looking that up, I think that's amazing. I mean, from a football standpoint, you get one of the best running backs in football for not even a discounted price. That's like a bargain basement price that you're getting. So you eat the suspension, whether it's a year, a half a year, you get him in your system, you train him. I think it's a good move in that respect.
Yeah, here you go. $645,000 base salary, $25,000 per game roster bonus for each game that he is active, and a $55,000 off-season workout bonus. It actually comes out to where he can make almost $1 million this year.
Mm-hmm.
But he's going to be suspended. Who knows how many games? I think it's going to be more than 6. I don't know if they're going to take into account how many games he set out last year. But I mean, there are 3 separate incidents with him since January of last year, January of 2018, and that they're investigating. So because he's on a team now, because he's been signed, I think the NFL is going to ramp up their quote unquote investigation and then come out with something before the draft or right before training camp starts, so they know what they're dealing with. But the rumor is that GM John Dorsey leaked the tapes to TMZ so that he could sign Kareem Hunt. But I just want to know, what has Nick Chubb done to solidify not being the starting running back in Cleveland? That's a question I don't know anybody can answer, because there's nothing. He looked amazing this past season. And they have Carlos Hyde on a 3-year deal. He's going to be going into year 2 of that deal. So he's going to be a very easy candidate to release, but I don't believe he'll be released until Kareem Hunt is off his suspension.
Well, what if, Eric,
another weapon.
What if, because look, I believe if Dorsey leaked the tapes, he should be removed from his position. He should be fired, because that is beyond dirty. You've got a player now that should not be able to trust his general manager. You've got an organization that can't trust its general manager. And how are you going to deal with trades when you've got every other organization that's looking at your GM going, I'm not dealing with that guy. He's a dirty, no good sleazeball. Like, that's bad all the way around. The Browns have no choice but to fire him if that's the case. Now, I agree with you 100% about Nick Chubb. So let me play devil's advocate. The reason why I think the Browns might have pulled the trigger, and why I say it might be smart, is you get him on your roster, you get him a few carries, you get him a few games, you don't necessarily start him over Nick Chubb, and then you trade him to a running back desperate team, considering the price tag that he has on him, okay? You might be able to, at the trade deadline, trade him to the Jets or whoever missed out on Le'Veon Bell and get a bounty.
I get where you're coming from, and I'm not going to shoot down what you're saying, but what if he's suspended throughout the trade deadline?
Well, but let's say he's suspended for 8 games or 10, let's just say 10 games. Well, the trade deadline's what, week 9 now? They moved it back?
Something like that. I thought it was like end of October.
Yeah, so like week 9, week 8, whatever it is. Okay, so you don't have him for 2 weeks. Great. You bring him into your system. You have him study the playbook. You have him work in practice. You get him that key playing time, and then.
But he's suspended, and he's not allowed around the facility.
Okay, you're right.
That's
You're right.
That's the problem. That's the problem with the NFL. I know they're suspended, but when they're out on their own like that, they're more apt to get in trouble than anything.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
Be repeat. You should be allowed to be around the facility. You should be allowed to be in meetings. You should be allowed to be able to practice. Okay, just not playing games. I think especially football, the NFL really needs to relook at suspensions and be like, okay, you're not allowed to play in games. With baseball, when you're suspended, you can play in spring training games, just not regular season games.
Right.
And you can be around the facility and work out. Football, you're nowhere allowed. That's why the whole Josh Gordon thing was, he needs his teammates more than ever, but he's not allowed around them.
Yeah.
Which is
stupid. It's
stupid.
It
hurts the player more than anything.
It's stupid. But okay, you're right. But you can at least get him the playbook. You know what I mean? So if that's the Browns' thinking, then I think it's brilliant. If they got Kareem Hunt to be the starting running back, then I'm befuddled. And this is a typical Browns move. You have a running back that looked amazing, who's young, fresh out of college, the next best thing, and you're going to turn around and you're going to put him on the bench for a running back with a pass like Kareem Hunt has. It just completely upsets the locker room atmosphere and the demeanor. And to be honest with you, there are other players in that locker room going, well, if Nick Chubb can be benched for somebody and he didn't do anything but perform at a level most running backs don't perform at, what chance do I have? You know what I mean? So I think it's, in that respect, it's extremely stupid. If they're doing it in a sense of we can get a guy that can bring in more pieces to the puzzle later on, then I think it's actually a stroke of brilliance. But I put all of that in one category because none of that matters. If Dorsey did leak the tape, fire him. He is a cancer. He is a scumbag. Yes, the tape should have been leaked. But to leak the tape for the benefit of getting the player later on, that's beyond the pale. And before anybody out there saying, Anthony, you're saying they shouldn't have leaked the tape. No, I'm glad the tape got out there. People like that should not get away with it. I'm saying the method in which the tape was released is something I have an issue with. Okay. Next thing. Go ahead.
All right, next thing. I don't know where to start. So, Pittsburgh Steelers, boy, are they a mess right now. We're going to start with Antonio Brown. As you all probably have heard by now, he has requested a trade. He's already posted on social media that, he says goodbye to the Steelers and the fans. He wants to be traded. And the Steelers have come out and said, we're not going to trade you to the AFC North teams or the New England Patriots. So I know there's a lot of people trying to get him out to San Francisco, which actually wouldn't be bad considering their wide receiver core has been bad ever since Terrell Owens was in town. And it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see where he goes. I will guarantee he gets traded to an NFC team so they can get him out of the conference and to an NFC team that they don't play this year because they don't want to see him come back or Pittsburgh go there and play them this year because they don't want to have to deal with that.
Well, then that rules out the NFC West.
What's that?
That rules out the NFC West.
Yeah, I guess if they're playing the NFC West, he won't be traded to San Francisco. Mm-hmm. So think of a team like
Dallas.
Oh man,
Dallas.
Detroit.
Dallas.
Dallas. Dallas with. Wow.
I'm telling you, that's where he's going. I don't know why I'm so confident in this, but I really feel strongly that's where he's going to end up.
Yeah, and I won't be surprised maybe if they do pull the trigger and still trade him out to San Francisco or somewhere, to see what he is. But at first he was like, I'm declining a meeting with our owner Rooney, and then finally he came back and said, I'm going to meet with Rooney to try to figure out what's going on. So we all know that Antonio Brown's ego is bigger than checks that he can cash. So. Mm-hmm. That saga is going to be pretty much front and center this whole offseason until he actually does get traded. But there's the number 2 point out of Pittsburgh too. And before I go into point number 2 with Pittsburgh, I will say right now that they're falling down my list of top 3 AFC teams that I root for. Mm-hmm. And I think the Chargers are going to easily take over the number 1 spot until Phillip Rivers retires. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I've always been drawn to the Chargers ever since LaDainian Tomlinson. Yeah. Actually, since '94, I really wanted the Chargers to beat the 49ers that Super Bowl. Yeah. And I like Junior Seau and Natron Means and whatnot. But and then of course the Houston Texans. I think highly of Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins. And we all know how I feel about Watson because I think he should still be I think he should be a Bear wearing blue and orange. Mm-hmm. But we'll see what happens throughout Trubisky and Watson's career. So the second point that I want to make about Pittsburgh is that Le'Veon Bell should be a free agent when the new year year rolls around March 13th. However, Pittsburgh's going to play hardball, which I think they're in the wrong for doing, and they're going to transition tag Le'Veon Bell. Listen, that's just going to tick him off even more, okay? And if I were Bell, I'd be like, you got to be kidding me. Like, what do I have to do to get the free agency? I just want to be able to sign with whatever team I want to. I just want to put Pittsburgh in my rearview mirror, and I just want to play football. However, Pittsburgh wants to apply the transition tag and negotiate with the team that he wants to sign with, because there'll be teams out there that said, okay, we're gonna sign you to an offer sheet. Pittsburgh has the right to match. When that happens, and they can trade him to the Jets or the Colts or whoever. The Colts have already said, we might not be players for Bell because we're not gonna pay that much for running backs. They might just go running back by committee. That leaves the Jets. I think the Bears can be a sleeper for Le'Veon Bell, but they don't have the draft capital to trade for Bell if the transition tag is applied. But the only caveat is that Bell still has to sign the transition tag. Yeah. And if he doesn't sign the transition tag, he could be out of football 2 straight years.
Well, what he should have done, and I was thinking about this during the season, what he should have done is retired. If he had retired from football and got his papers, then he could come back the next year with no penalty. But he would have to sit out a year. So, that's what he should have done. But he didn't. Look, the Steelers, this is what the organization has been. There's a reason when Terry Bradshaw left Pittsburgh, he never got in touch with the organization again until he was in his 50s. All right? They don't treat their players well at all. They never have. They use them, abuse them, and get rid of them. And for all the love that organization gets from the NFL Network and all of the fans, it is a dumpster fire of an organization as far as how it treats its employees. Okay? If that was Walmart, they would be out of business because of lawsuits. It's just a reality. And you're seeing more proof of it.
All I was going to say is that I don't blame the Steelers one bit for the franchise tag, because that is definitely well within their right. Okay? And whether or not they negotiate in good faith, well, that's on them. But for Bell not to sign his franchise tag, that's on him too. If he really wanted to play football, he would have signed it. He would have signed it at the deadline and played, and maybe Pittsburgh makes the playoffs. We don't know. But it's very unprecedented to see what we saw out of a football player. Aaron Donald was like, I don't want to sign my transition tag without a new deal. And then it took a whole year after the Rams basically said, we're going to give you a new deal to sign your franchise tag. He did, never got the new deal until the next year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very.
But the Rams did that because of the salary cap bump that they were going to get the following year.
I'm sure once it was explained to Donald and said, we can't sign you to a deal this year because of X, Y, and Z, that you sign your franchise tag in the offseason, and it took them for the last deal to get done in the offseason before the game started to get him a deal after they signed Gurley and they signed Cooks and whatnot. So, that probably was frustrating on his end. But, we've never really seen a player hold out throughout the whole season before.
Well, I mean, look, the bottom line is, the Pittsburgh Steelers organization, I've never had respect for it. And when you sit there and say, oh, we don't need Le'Veon Bell, we've got, Connor. Okay, well then why not release him outright? You still kept him because you're a vengeful, psychotic dick, for lack of a better word.
Well, yeah, they could have said, okay.
Because, really quick, because all we heard, Eric, all season long was, who needs Le'Veon Bell? Who needs Le'Veon Bell? And nobody called out the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers never released him. So obviously Pittsburgh was talking out of both sides of their rear end, right? On the one hand, they were saying, we don't need Le'Veon Bell. But on the other hand, they didn't dare cut him.
They didn't need Le'Veon Bell unless you could play defense. Because that's what hurt the Steelers. That's what hurt the Steelers a ton this year.
Well, it may be, but I'm sorry, you're not going to convince me that Connor is better than Le'Veon Bell. You're not. He had a good year, but you're not going to convince me of that. And again, if that's the case, if Le'Veon Bell was so inconsequential to the Pittsburgh Steelers organization, why keep him under the tag when it was clear he wasn't going to come back? Why not just let him go? You don't need him.
Because they didn't want New England, Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincinnati.
Why does it matter? You don't need him. He's irrelevant.
Because your defense is switched cheese and you wouldn't be able to stop them.
Okay, well then why franchise tag him now? Or not franchise tag him, but transition tag him now. Like, I'm sorry,
To be honest, to play hardball and take them off. That's why. That's the only good reason. I know they want compensation, but sometimes getting a compensatory pick is better than pissing off somebody and only negotiating with teams who are possibly interested when he has a full reign of 31 other teams that he could negotiate with.
Well, it's dirty.
That's the only reason, and that's why it's taken me off as somebody who has liked Pittsburgh for many years, going back to well before you and I even met.
Yep.
I like the mid '90s Steelers. With
Kevin Green and
Greg Lloyd
Lloyd.
and
Yep.
Kevin Green when he was there, even though he was on the outskirts of his career. But I liked him back then, and they're slowly moving down my list now, and they may eventually fall off. I may just go with 2 AFC teams or whatnot, but to who I follow closely. But it's tough. It really is because Le'Veon just wants to play football. I really believe in my heart of hearts, Le'Veon just wants to play football, and he's just like, let me go so I can talk with 31 other teams instead of you deciding who you want to talk to get to extract even more draft picks or personnel or whatever, so that I may have to go to a place where I don't want to go.
Yeah. Well, is there any other news in the NFL before we move on to the XFL that you want to talk about?
Well, right now there's a lot of people being released as far as whatnot. Some bigger names that you might have heard of. Tight end Charles Clay out of Buffalo. He's been released by the Bills. Brandon Marshall, the linebacker from Denver, he's going to be given his pink slip. And you'll see some bigger names come up eventually, too, as we get closer to March. But just keep an eye on those. And, that might make free agency, pretty big, especially for filling in holes and getting guys that, might be able to help your team for 1 or 2 years. I've heard the rumor of once Clay Matthews gets released, possibly signing with the Rams. I mean, he is a UFC guy, so you never know.
Well, that would be nice. We could use a linebacker, that's for sure. We've got 2 good ones. We need a third one. I don't like Alex Barron as a linebacker. I like him as a backup linebacker. I like him as a potential backup safety, although I don't think he has the speed to play safety either.
The Bears will trade to Danny Trevathan for Jared Goff and for Robert Woods and Todd Gurley. That's fair.
Yeah, I'm sure. After all, I mean, Todd Gurley's garbage too, right? Look at his postseason performance. Just throughout the rest of his career.
I mean, we'll also throw in an 8th-round draft pick for you, too.
Well, tell you what, you don't need to give us Levathan because I think that's too much. All we want for Jared Goff is a used condom, a 6-pack of beer, and a 7th-round pick, and you've got him. Because apparently he's that bad. Yeah, right?
Let me call it into the league.
The other one, speaking of the league, the reason I'm not going to give this any real credit, I just feel like there needs to be an education here. When you settle a lawsuit, you don't settle it because you were guilty or you were wrong. You settle because you either want to close it out and put it behind you, or that you realize the person you're dealing with just has a price tag and that's all they have. I think the NFL settling with Colin Kaepernick, it was both of those. They just wanted to put it behind him, and they realized that he just has a price tag, that he is a atypical millennial social justice warrior that has absolutely no real belief behind the cause that he's fighting for. He's just looking for a payout, and the NFL gave it to him. And now that whole situation's behind him, and, I hear CNN might be hiring, so bye, Kaepernick.
Yeah, 60 to 80 million they settled on. I mean, I have a beef with the NFL. How much money can I get?
Yeah, right? Seriously. Anyway, so I'm not giving that any credit because to me, that's about as much of a non-story as Colin Kaepernick's entire career. Moving forward, I want to talk a little XFL. Bob Stoops is the new head coach of the Dallas franchise. Now, he's been there for a little bit. This isn't breaking news. He's been hired. But I wanted to touch on this a little bit. I think this is great for the XFL to go. This is what I'm talking about, right? This isn't recycled dog crap. This is a guy with very little NFL experience who made his career as a college coach, and a darn good one to boot, getting a chance to run a professional organization. I'm excited because if this is the type of hiring that the XFL is going to be doing moving forward, this is definitely going to be a league I'm going to be vestedly interested in all the way around. There's also, so I want to touch a little bit on that. So I'll just say one thing on this moving forward. Bob Stoops brings to the Dallas organization, he not only brings a coach who's capable, who knows how to win, knows how to build, but is capable of building. He built a program that was already established. So this will be an interesting challenge for him, taking over an organization with nothing. But the cool thing about it is everyone else is playing on that same playing field. My question to you, Eric, is does Dallas have an advantage because they're the only team to have hired a head coach so far?
They have the PR right now, and I agree that it's a good hire by the Dallas franchise because there are a ton of Oklahoma fans and a ton of Texas fans that are in that area, and it's a great regional hire. You're going to see a lot of ex-Longhorns and ex-Sooners, and don't get me wrong, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Sam Bradford as the quarterback of the Dallas franchise the first year.
That'd be interesting.
I'm throwing it out there only because of the relationship those two had, and Sam Bradford's going to be a journeyman and clipboard holder the rest of his career, wherever that takes him.
Yeah.
And the XFL might be his last chance to actually play in some meaningful games. But where do they hold the Red River rivalry? They hold it there in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl. So of course it was a great hire. It's not only a great hire for the collegiate fan base because there are a ton of fans there that love Bob Stoops. No matter what side you root for, mainly of course Oklahoma. But he's never really done anything to belittle a fan base or whatnot. So he's going to get a lot of people coming down from Oklahoma, and they're going to be a huge draw during the time that they're on the field there.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
They do have an advantage because they do have a head coach, but they don't have any players, so he really can't do anything with a player. He could just be like, okay, I'm the head coach. Yeah. And there's that. So
he could start working. He can.
He's a year away.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is he can start working with the organization as far as putting together a plan for drafting. The league doesn't start until next year, so obviously this year is over in football. And that's the other thing, too. I'm glad you mentioned the Red River rivalry is right there in Dallas. I mean, that's basically a free combine right there, right? That he's going to get every single year in his own backyard. I'm shocked that Bob Stoops never got an offer to the NFL.
And this may be an opportunity to where, how well he does in the XFL, he might go to the NFL after that.
Yeah, well, the NFL is going to have to get off of its incestual behavior for that to happen, but I hope you're certainly right. But I think it's great. So, pretty cool news there. There is rumor that there is a Buffalo assistant who is being talked to for the Washington franchise. I don't know if that's been solidified or not moving forward, but I just thought that was important to break, and I wanted to get to that. So, Eric, any closing thoughts?
I'm looking at the XFL website, and they have their 8 teams listed. Only 2 cities from the original XFL are in this year's or 2020's XFL, and that's LA and New York. So it'll be interesting to see, their expansion, what they do, and looking at what they had, as far as teams from before. They had the Chicago Enforcers, the Las Vegas Outlaws, and whatnot, and none of those teams made it over the XFL 2020. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward, what the news is coming out of the XFL as far as expansion plans after year one, or I know there's going to be a lot of different rules that the XFL is going to be implementing. So who knows what's going to work and whatnot, but only the news out of the XFL right now is Bob Stoops getting hired. So I think you're going to see a lot more throughout the year. I won't be surprised if they try breaking some news like right before the NFL draft or right before opening week kickoff or something like that.
Or the AAF championship, just before the AAF championship game.
Right. Because they basically what they want to do is they want to, get their brand back to, year one of, 2001 where they were, because it was actually a big hit watching how kickoffs were, how you got the football type of thing. So, we'll see. And if anybody remembers XFL back in 2001, you barely remember, who the Chicago Enforcers head coach was, Dick Butkus. You barely remember who won the XFL championship, LA, or who the MVP was of that year.
Tommy Maddox.
Mm-hmm. But, the one guy who stands out the most from XFL 2001, I obviously believe he won't be back. I think his career is finished, but everybody remembers He Hate Me, which was great because he really stood out. But, we'll see what XFL 2020 has in store, and as more breaking news comes out, we'll definitely cover that.
So there's a few things that I'm going to part with here, and they are all on the XFL. Number one, XFL, look, you have a champion on the books, the LA Extreme. If the LA organization decides to go with any other name but the Extreme, I think it's a mistake. It's good because you have something already established. It's a way to blend the old with the new. The XFL already said this year's version is going to be way different. It's not gimmicky. It's more football-based. It's more football the way the fans wanted football for a long time, which tells me defense, it's going to have, hard hitting. It's going to have a lot of key elements that we've missed in modern-day football. I think the LA Extreme needs to be the LA franchise, and if it is, that's going to be the team I root for moving forward, unless Arizona gets a team. I'm just putting that caveat in there now. But other than that, I'm not picking a team until I know all the names and I see all the uniforms and I can make a decision. I really like the Dallas hire with Bob Stoops. I always like Bob Stoops as a coach, so I'd be curious who the other coaches are. That could be a determining factor for me. But at the end of the day, I think you've got two original cities from the previous XFL. I don't mind if New York renames its franchise because they didn't win the championship, but LA did. So keep the LA Extreme name. You could change the uniforms. That doesn't have to be the same. Just keep the name. Then you've got that record that you can carry forward moving forward. Last thing about the XFL that I'm really excited about, they're in conversation with 21 additional cities. Basically, they're in conversation with 21 additional cities, but they do plan to expand to 28 and cap it for a while. So there's going to be one city that's an odd man out. But there's rumor that they are talking with several other cities to continue the brand. So I don't know if the XFL has a growth plan in place, but it certainly feels that way when you consider the fact that they are talking to all these other cities. And a fun fact about St. Louis is I believe they put a no relocation clause in the St. Louis organization. So they will not be able to move cities. They kind of did with them what the Packers did with Green Bay, or with what Green Bay did with the Packers. You cannot relocate this organization. So I know that's going to make the St. Louis fan base very, very happy. And they are going to be playing at the Dome in America Center, or the Trans World Dome. So we'll see how all that unfolds. I'm excited. And the other thing to think about, Eric, and I'll let you end with this because I'm going to ask you a question, but the XFL originally wasn't planning on competing with the NFL, but with the AAF obviously being an extension of the National Football League, they are going to be competing with the NFL in the February market, in that February timeframe. If they're successful and they can take on the AAF and beat them, what do you think the possibility is down the road that we get two leagues at the same time and finally get a second option other than the NFL to watch on Sundays?
I think it has potential, but I think if the XFL goes in February, like right after the Super Bowl, and the AAF starts right after the Super Bowl, people are going to be so done with football that they're going to be like, we don't want to watch any more football. And, they're going to see what the AAF is. They're going to finally realize that the AAF is basically an NFL minor league system.
Yep.
And once they do finally figure out that, the AAF is the NFL light, they might watch the first couple weeks of the XFL, but people transition. Well, especially myself, people transition and be like, okay, football's over, spring training starts.
Yeah.
Let's get into baseball mode. Oh, the hockey is going to be getting into the playoffs in a few weeks. What's my favorite team in my city doing right now? Because I've been really more glued to football than anything. how's the NHL doing? Or if you're not an NHL fan but an NBA fan, hey, who's the super team that I need to start following and possibly root for? Because that's what it all boils down to in the NBA. So you might just get a real big lull of football, and that's what if I were the XFL, I wouldn't want. I would probably want to give it a few weeks, maybe halfway through the AAF season, and be like, here we are. And we're going to play on NFL draft weekend as well.
Well, we'll see. I mean, that's not a bad suggestion, but the problem is if you do that, then you are going to bleed into baseball season and opening day, opening week. Baseball's nuts, and you're not going to get that market. So, there's a reason the AAF chose the week after the Super Bowl, because their season ends before baseball season begins. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and especially with the markets that you're in. There's a St. Louis team, so of course, people are going to be more focused on the Cardinals than anything there. You have a Tampa Bay team, so I mean, unless the Rays are building a new stadium or something like that, I mean, Tampa Bay might get their play, but New York and LA are tough because who knows what people love in those two cities and
Yankees. Yeah, New York is all Yankees. Yeah.
I mean, New York's a tough market because you have the Yankees, and if ever the Knicks are good, a lot of people go there, but they haven't been good for a while. So, yeah. And then in LA, it's like they're going to end up showing up late anyways, just like any other sporting event. So, and he would leave it early, but it's tough to gauge those two cities just on merit alone and on reputation. So we'll see how they take off where they're at, and if they're able to be successful, do it. I mean,
we'll see. All right.
It off and kick off.
All right, man. I'm Anthony.
I'm Eric.
Horns up.
Bear down.
And go Rams.
And go Bears.